All right, ready to dive into something really different. We're tackling cyborgs versus the Earth Goddess, Men's Domestication of Women and Animals and Female Resistance by Dr. Moses Seenarine.
Whoa. Even the title, right? You know it's going to be interesting.
No kidding. And Dr. Seenarine, he's got this background writing about women and caste systems, so not your typical anthropologist.
No, not at all. And the praise. I mean, feminist scholars, activists, even musicians love this book. Shows you how much it makes people think.
It sparked a lot of debate, for sure. And he starts off with this huge idea, like, what if making fear, domesticating it, was even bigger than tools, bigger than language even? For humans, I mean.
Huge, yeah. And then he says women were the ones who figured that out. Totally changes that man the hunter thing, you know? Like,
Whoa.
maybe women were the ones with the real power early on because they controlled the fire.
He even says, like, maybe men weren't big, strong hunters. Maybe they were more like, going out to find embers for the women. Talk about a different way of looking at it.
Really makes you rethink things, yeah. Like, imagine women tending these fires, keeping them going, figuring out cooking. It wasn't men bringing home food, it was women making it. You know what I mean?
It's such a different picture of early humans, not just being tough and strong, but like women with this incredibly important job, keeping the fire alive, literally.
And fire wasn't just for food, don't forget. Warmth, keeping away animals. It was like the center of everything for those early communities.
Oh, totally. It's like the first social network, right? Sitting around the fire, telling stories, having rituals, teaching each other, and women are right in the middle of it all.
And that cooked food, Seenarine says that actually changed us, like physically, you know?
Wait, really? Cooking changed how our bodies worked?
Yeah, bigger brains because of it, smaller stomachs. All because women figured out how to use fire. Crazy, huh?
That's wild. So it's like the invention of dinner is
Yeah.
what made us human. And then he talks about fire farming.
Oh, yeah. He says way before we were planting fields or anything, women were using fire to manage the land, like controlled burns and stuff to help grow food.
So they were the original ecological engineers,
Yeah.
basically. And this is where it gets really cool. He connects fire to like women and religion, women and spirituality.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That fire, the hearth, it's like the sacred place. You have rituals, ceremonies, stories passed down. It all points back to women being the keepers of knowledge, the spiritual leaders.
He's got some really interesting examples too, like how childbirth was done, healing rituals, even this Aboriginal tradition where women could actually stop a ritual if they thought it wasn't being done right.
Wow. It really makes you think about how much influence women had socially and spiritually back then, especially when you compare it to like the religions we have now. A lot of them focused on men, you know?
Right, like gods in the sky, the afterlife.
Yeah.
But this older way was all about right here, right now.
Mm.
Survival, community, and being really connected to the earth. It's a completely different way of seeing what it means to be human.
It really is. And that's kind of the foundation for this big shift Seenarine talks about, this really radical idea. So we've got this picture, right, of women having all this power, spiritual leaders, all that, because of their connection to fire. But then Seenarine throws in this whole cyborg thing, and it's like, whoa, where's he going with this?
I got to admit, when I hit that part, cyborg, I'm thinking robots, spaceships.
Yeah.
Not what I expected. He's not really talking about technology, is he?
Nope, not literally. It's more like he's using cyborg to describe this force, this mentality that's all about control. Like, think about how a machine works, how it uses up resources, how it's all about being efficient no matter what. That's the cyborg to Seenarine, and he's saying that's how men started treating nature. And women, too.
Okay, so how does this cyborg thing even happen? We go from these goddess cultures, worshiping fire, to, well, everything we got now. How'd that happen?
Well, Seenarine says it starts with domesticating animals. But even that word domestication, he means it differently. It's not just about farming. It's like that's how men started to see women, too. Something to control, to own, to, and this is important, to take away their power from them.
And you can see that happening not just in how people lived, but in the stories they told.
Totally. Like he talks about those old myths where the powerful women are turned into monsters, basically. Medusa, with snakes for hair, turning men to stone with a look. Or Persephone, dragged underground, stuck there. It's like a warning, right? Don't be a powerful woman, bad things happen.
So it's like those stories are trying to make people afraid of women's power, trying to keep them down.
Exactly. And get this, to prove he's not just making this up, Seenarine uses this genetic evidence. It's called the Neolithic Y chromosome bottleneck, which sounds super complicated.
Okay, yeah. Genetics and me were not exactly friends. Can you explain that one?
So like 8,000 years ago, all of a sudden, way fewer men in the gene pool, like a bunch of them just Vanished.
Vanished. That's kind of creepy. What happened to them?
Nobody knows for sure, but seenarine thinks it lines up with more guys fighting each other back then.
Makes sense, right? Farming starting up, people are settling down, got more stuff to fight over.
Exactly. And then add in that cyborg thing, the need to be in control, be the best. Yeah, things probably got violent. Seenarine says that's like the turning point, when the whole cyborg way of thinking really takes over.
So we're living in this cyborg world now.
Yeah.
What's the point? Are we just doomed? Is that what he's saying?
Not necessarily. He does offer a little bit of hope, like a way out. And you might not like it because it means looking back to those earlier cultures.
Back to the earth goddess, fire rituals, all that.
Yeah, exactly. He calls it ecogynocentrism, which is a mouthful. But basically, respecting nature, women leading the way, living in a way that doesn't wreck the planet. Like those early humans, he says.
So like rewind the clock, but not literally go back in time. Can we even do that?
He doesn't mean literally, but like, what if we could be more like them, more connected to nature, more respectful? That's what he wants us to think about.
That's a pretty big ask. But while we're talking about this, it makes you wonder, aren't there people already doing that? Like trying to live that way?
Oh, absolutely. Those groups who've been taking care of the land forever, the ones who never lost that connection, and people fighting for women's rights, people trying to stop climate change.
So maybe those ecogynocentrism ideas are already out there.
Right. Maybe centerine's just giving us a way to see it all, to connect the dots between these different groups.
So it's not starting over. It's more like joining in with what's already happening.
Yeah, and that's kind of exciting, don't you think? We're not totally lost. There's still a chance.
So we've got this cyborg thing, right? This way of thinking that's gotten us into trouble. And then there's this ecogynocentrism idea, which is, well, it's a lot to think about.
And look, it's not like he's saying, let's all go back to living in caves, you know? It's not about pretending the modern world doesn't exist.
All right, no one's ditching their smartphones. But he's saying somewhere along the line, we took a wrong turn.
Yeah, we did. We bought into this cyborg way of doing things, and now the planet's messed up. Women are still treated like they're less than. It's not working.
So how do we fix it? How do we go from, like, super competitive and destructive to this whole ecogynocentrism thing? Seems impossible.
Well, seenarine says it starts with how we see the world. We got to stop thinking we're better than nature, you know? We're part of it, and it's powerful. We got to respect that.
And he keeps coming back to women being leaders in all this. What does that even look like, practically speaking?
It's not that men are excluded, right?
Yeah.
But it's about saying those things we think of as, I don't know, feminine, like being caring, working together, understanding how everything's connected.
Yeah, and let's be real. That stuff hasn't exactly been valued, has it? In the world as we know it.
Nope. And that's the whole problem, seenarine's saying. We need those qualities now more than ever to deal with climate change, to make a fairer world.
So it's about more than just like saving the planet. It's about how we treat each other too.
100%. To him, you can't separate them. You treat nature bad, you end up treating people bad. And a lot of times, it's women getting the worst of it.
So where do we even begin? How do we make this shift towards a more ecogynocentric way of living?
He's big on education, you know? People got to learn about this stuff, how we got stuck in these bad patterns. But he also says we need to change the system itself.
So it's not enough to just like recycle more or something.
Right.
It's bigger than that.
Way bigger. The way we do business, the way we do politics. If it's all about profit, about silencing people, nothing's going to get better.
Yeah, that's daunting, to say the least. But I got to say, thinking about what seenarine's saying, there are people already doing this, aren't there?
All over the place. Those communities who never lost their connection to the land, the ones fighting for women, for the environment, they get it.
So it's almost like those ecogenocentrism seeds are already planted.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe his book is just a way to help us see it, you know, to connect those dots, make it bigger.
So we're not starting from scratch. We're joining something that's already going on.
And that's a good feeling, right? We're not powerless. Things can change.
That's a good thought to end on. We've covered a lot of ground with Dr. Seenarine's book, Cyborgs versus the Earth Goddess. Folks, check it out if you want your mind blown. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and until next time, keep those brains buzzing.